Hey, motivation. For my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people, and this classic Bible teaching say, make this for my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people, and this classic Bible teaching. Motivation.
Now, you can live in Texas and not have a good red meat blend. Texas Cowboy Dust is designed for steak and other red meats. It's out to be my most popular spice blend, made with onions, peppers, ground mushrooms, pink salt, and other spices. Texas Cowboy Dust also goes great with chicken, pork, vegetables, and adds a restaurant-quality sheen to gravies and sauces. Vanilla smoked sea salt seasoning is for seafood. The tarragon and fennel bring out the natural sweetness in seafood. I also use it in rice dishes, on yams, asparagus, blueberry pancakes, and believe it or not, chocolate chip cookies. Vanilla smoked sea salt adds a salty and savory component to sweet dishes that create a symphony for the tongue.
I have in me the ability to make you a better you. So if you work hard, focus, stay on point, you can do anything. Trust me.
We made this track to tell everybody they can follow their dreams.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
Majesty is a premium health and wellness tea line focused on bringing delicious yet healthy tea blends to the community. Filled with an abundance of vitamins and antioxidants, we work to blend teas with exotic spices and fruits to produce scrumptious and wholesome beverages. So check us out at mymajesties.com. That's MyMajesties.com. My Majesties, an Urban Passport member.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food? Like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Sweetness.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant. Authentic Caribbean cuisines.
For my people.
A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Coles Brown, joined by special guest co-host. He's still special, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State University Radio Network. Yes, Charles, you're still special. You're a good guy, hard worker, and it's always a pleasure to have you back on the show. Good morning. How you doing, Charles?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here. Appreciate it.
The busy guy. I know you've got some broadcast duties on today. What, double header? No, excuse me. Softball. What else?
Well, I'm doing something different this year. One weekend I'm going to do softball. Next weekend I'll do baseball. So this is the baseball weekend. So we had a game last night, and we have one game today and one game tomorrow. Our softball played a doubleheader yesterday in terms of trying to get ahead of potential weather. We forecasted a few days ago we'd have rain today. Looks like that's not going to happen, but you don't know a few days ago. So that's where the softball doubleheader came in yesterday. But this weekend is baseball. Next weekend it'll be softball. And we'll just kind of go back and forth and see if we can get both these teams into the SWAC tournament.
Like I said, a very busy guy, Charles Edmond. Guest menu for today's show, April the 2nd, new month, in a fast approaching middle of the year. Guest menu looks like this. Of course, Charles Edmond, special guest co-host. First guest of today's show will be Jim Kleinpeter of The Advocate. He covers Southern University athletics. Following Jim Kleinpeter, it'll be hour number 2. Coach Vann Pettaway, the Coles Brown Show's basketball analyst. He joins me once again. Then finally, Kyle T. Mosley, first-time guest on the Coles Brown Show, managing editor, head reporter of Saints News, also HBCU Legends, Pelican Scoop. He's a Morehouse alum. So we'll talk some New Orleans Saints, a little bit of Pelicans. We may even talk a little bit of NIL. And by the way, Kyle had a very good interview with Byron Allen that I watched on social media, Twitter, this past week. So he's a guy that he has his blueprint, like a lot of us, on what's going on in the HBCU world or HBCU athletics. News and notes. We're going to be talking some Southern University baseball, Charles, and we talked about last Friday Southern defeating Grambling State, but then on Saturday they lost 11-5 to Grambling State, and that evened up the series, one game apiece. And then Sunday they flipped the script and even flipped the score. Jaguars over Grambling State 11-5, and they win 2 out of 3. And at that point, even their conference record to 3-3. Then West leading Texas Southern comes in yesterday or last night, and the Jaguars take a 5-3 victory over Texas Southern. Joseph Badagila, hope I got that name right, or at least close, gets the win for the Jaguars, even his record of 3-3 on the season. And then in a midweek game against McNeese, a in-state opponent, Jaguars had good pitching from their starting pitcher, but when they went into the bullpen, they lost the ball game 9-7. But for Southern University, taking 2 out of 3 against Grambling State University, and then defeating Texas Southern last night 5-3. Because, Charles, this team had a very difficult non-conference schedule. And quite honestly, some of the Jaguar Nation were getting very restless about this baseball team. But look, they're the 2-time defending back-to-back SWAC tournament champions. I think you just have to kind of be a little patient, and let's see if this moves. But Grambling got it. Southern got it done.
Yeah, I mean, we're what we all know, and this is obvious. The more you win, the more pressure is on you to continue to win. And I think that, for me, I've been doing baseball a minute or two. You just can't go by what you're seeing right now, because I think teams are still trying to figure it out, including our team. We beat Prairie View on Sunday, and then we turn around and we lose pretty big last night. I think it's still early. I think the next 2 or 3 weeks will tell a lot. And I think teams right now are still trying to figure out their starting 9. I think teams are still trying to figure out their conference weekend pitchers. I think it's still a work in progress for all these teams, Carlos. I mean, if you look at the Western Division standings going into last night, Texas Southern was 5-1, and you had 4 of the teams that were 3-3. Then the Braves were 2 games back. I mean, as tough as it's been for Alcorn, I mean, if we can come back and win this series, we'll be right back in the thick of it trying to make the tournament. Maybe 2 or 3 seeds. So there's still a lot of moving pieces on the Western Division side. And so, for all the talk all the positives I gave for Texas Southern when they came here a couple of weeks ago, now you're seeing things even out a little bit. And so, Southern University, hey, it's early. Fans don't necessarily look at it that way. Fans are in the here and now. But in SWAC baseball, let's get to the end of April. Let's turn the corner and get into May and see where things are at that point, because then you're only a few weeks away from the baseball tournaments. I'm not pressing the panic button quite yet. I'm still trying to figure it out, like a lot of fans are, and like most of these coaches are at this point.
Valid point. And I've pulled up the SWAC baseball standings, and we'll get a chance to discuss that a little bit later. But I'm still concerned. If I continue to talk about baseball, Jackson State 1-6 in the bottom of the East, and I know it's still early, but I think it's very concerning. And then, of course, Alcorn State. You've explained the issues that they have or having, and the coach coming in late, and they're just trying to improve. So yeah, they did take 1 game from Prairie View A&M, but they're 1-6. But I think the surprise is, albeit early, is Jackson State 1-6 in the Eastern Division. But I did look at those games played. They've been on the road a lot in the conference. A lot. So I don't know if that has something to do with it as well.
Yeah, and I think they're at Alabama State this weekend, and they lost last night. And so I
13-2.
They lost 13-2. So I think, what I said a couple of weeks ago about Jackson State is starting to pan out a little bit. And for Jackson State fans, I know it's hard to digest, but I think this year is one of those years they've lost a lot. Pitching has always been an issue. They don't have the bats. They don't have the firepower that they once had. So therefore, their margin of error is really small, and you're seeing that play out. They lost to Bethune-Cookman. They lost big leads. I think they beat Grambling in a midweek game. But Jackson State clearly is in a rebuild mode. But I think you have to give Omar Johnson a little bit of benefit of the doubt. He hasn't been in that role in a few years. He normally is just plug and play. This year, I don't think that's the case. I think it's going to be a struggle. Their margin of error is really small. They're struggling with pitching. They're struggling scoring runs. And so I think all that's kind of, colliding on them right now. And unless they figure it out, they might not make the tournament. And that'll be a huge disappointment. Top 4 make it. And in Jackson State, if they don't get it going, I think that's the one team that's a sense of urgency, considering that they went 24-0 last year and people still talk about that, including me. For them to fall off the wagon like this is concerning. And, if they don't make the tournament, that will be something we'll be talking about. But, some time left. But I think for Jackson State, the clock's ticking.
Well, I have faith in Coach Omar. He deserves a chance to turn around. And as you stated, it's still so early, but it's a sense of urgency with Jackson State. Look, their fan base, they are high maintenance, like Southern, and name a few more. So once they get home, maybe they'll have some success. Home meaning home conference series, and maybe they'll get on the roll. Southern softball and Alcorn, a doubleheader. Southern won 3-1, and then in the second game they lost 7-6. The finals today. What time, Charles? 1 or 3 p.m.?
It's going to be at 1.
Okay, 1 p.m. at Alcorn State University. So the Jaguars softball team, they're trying to get it done. But they're like the baseball team. They're trying to just get through the conference season. It's still early. In about a week or two, another 2 weeks, you'll probably be at the mid-season part of the conference. And then you want to see some more improvement. Some other news and notes. Cedric Thomas, new defensive coordinator at Alcorn State. Now, he previously was a defensive back coach at Alcorn State from 2012 to 2015. Then the defensive coordinator from 2016, 2017. Now, before that, or after that, 2020 defensive back coach at Southern Miss, and then previously 2-year stint as a head football coach at University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. I think that's a home run hire from, in my opinion, from the outside looking in for as Coach McNair bringing someone back who has success as a defensive coordinator. And Alcorn State wants to improve on that record from last year, which was 6-5. I think it's a home run hire.
Yeah, I talked to Coach Thomas the other day for the first time. I've missed him and he's missed me, so we got a chance to meet up and talk up for a little bit. He was talking to our offensive coordinator, Elliot Radden, I guess, going over schemes for, his defense versus Coach Radden's offense. I think Coach Thomas is going to bring a level of intensity, physicality to the defense. I was talking with their linebackers coach, Deion Roberson, who played at Alcorn, was a coach at UAP. He kind of followed Cedric Thomas from point to point. And so I was talking with Coach Roberson last week at the softball game. The defense is going to bring a level of physicality that we hadn't seen, and that was his theme. And Coach Thomas, if you know him, Carlos, he's a physical guy. He brings the intensity and the passion to that defense. And not saying Coach Thornton didn't. Of course, you know how he was as well. So I think for Coach Thomas, I think coming back home, he's comfortable. He knows what to expect. Coach McNair knows what to expect. And I think the transition has been pretty seamless. Coach Quinn, who followed Coach Thomas to UAPB, is now back. So the band's back together. Coach Thomas's band is back together on the defensive side of the ball. And I expect next Saturday's scrimmage to be intense. I think there's going to be some physicality. And from what I'm hearing, based on what I'm hearing, the defense is winning spring ball right now. So that's refreshing, I'm sure, for a lot of Braves fans as we kind of figure it out on offense. So it'll be interesting to see, how Coach Thomas continues to put this defense together.
Yeah, no one's talking about Alcorn State as far as spring ball, even going into fall 2022 season. Everyone is focusing, or they get a lot of the media attention in Jackson State. But, hey, watch out for Alcorn State. Coach McNair, hell of a coach. He's going to get it done. And we're going to be talking some more spring football updates in future shows, including today's show here on the Coles Brown Show. Congratulations to Dillard's Kiki Barber named the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference commissioner. Now, this is historic because she's the first black woman appointed to this position. So congratulations to Kiki Barber, now the commissioner of the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference. Also, we want to send thoughts out to Alabama A&M. You know, the last couple of weeks, Charles, you experienced firsthand the damage from the spring weather. And once again, it reared its ugly head. Alabama A&M baseball and softball suffered significant damage to their facilities. Baseball and softball damaged by some severe storms this week. We'll talk to Coach Pettaway in hour number 2, so maybe he can give us a more update of what's going on now, the aftermath of those storms. Grambling State University, spring game today. You've got social media is going to be there, HBCU Pass Plus. You're going to have celebrities there. Charles, you won't be there, a Grambling State alum, but I'm sure you will have an ear there to get the information. But Grambling State's having their spring game today. Also, if you didn't miss it, or did you miss it, hopefully you didn't, Jackson State unveils their new locker rooms, and they are just flat out nice. Really, really nice. And so congratulations to Jackson State getting that update to the locker rooms. And then finally, if you kind of been watching on social media, it is important, social media, in helping to build a university's brand, both from the athletic side and the academic side. I saw a very cool, neat video on social media, Twitter, Prairie View A&M and Coach Fosselman, going through some of the drills with the players. And I'll just say this, Charles, and we talked about this before the show started. Here's an opportunity where, now you have to have social media. It's important to drive content, to put your university, both from academic and athletic perspective, in the limelight. And I think you have enough talented students in marketing, communications, mass communications, that they can help with that. So hats off. You're seeing more and more HBCUs utilizing content and social media to help build their brand. Got any thoughts on that, Charles?
Yeah, it's a requirement now. I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty commonplace. And if you don't do that, you're behind. And I just used the example of what we did with the McNair show, putting it on Facebook Live and all that. I'm an audio guy. I'm not a video guy. Social media is still fairly infant to me. It's been 6 years in, if you want to call it that, but I'm still learning, and I was kind of pushing back on it. But I'm learning now. It's a requirement. And I thank you for that, because you've helped me, say, hey, if you don't get with this, you're falling behind. So I didn't want to fall behind. I wanted to stay, keep up with the Joneses, if you will. So I think with social media, obviously, you have to have this now, because if not, you're falling behind in terms of losing potential customers, losing potential students, losing potential recruits. I mean, I get hit up on social media by potential recruits that are interested in Alcorn. I mean, they see me as part of Alcorn State University athletics, and they follow me, and I just kind of I follow them, and I just kind of follow them where they need to go if they need to talk to some coaches or whatever. So it's important, but it's also necessary. And I think that's where we are right now. If schools that are not on board, you're just falling further behind, because it's gonna ramp up to another level at some point in time. We're in the social media basic realm now, but it's gonna ramp up a little bit more. And the schools that are ahead of the curve, if you don't catch up with them, you're gonna fall further behind with that. So it's an evolving, moving target. And I think we all have to stay in lockstep if we want to get to where we need to be.
Well said. Valid points. Because if you think about, and me and you from a professional standpoint, we've done segments, I've done shows, I've been in the business for 18, 20 years plus. And when you first got started, it wasn't any social media per se. You did basic terrestrial radio. Charles, I believe I can do more. I can do better as far as involving, social media. But it is important. But you just think how things have changed. When you first started, wasn't any of that. Now you have to include it. As far as even sports talk radio, video streaming, you got to. It's a must. So you put that very well. And I just noticed a lot of the alums from HBCUs, they're having some animated discussions about how important it is and who's doing this, who's doing that. Are you doing this? Are you doing enough? Those are valid questions, and every individual institution, they know where they stand. They know if they need to get better, they need to do better. Those who are doing well, they still looking at the edge. How can they get even better in doing that? HBCU All-Star Basketball Game, Sunday, April 3rd, 2022, University of New Orleans Lakefront Arena, 3 p.m. Central on CBS. I want to say Coach Bussey is involved, correct, Charles?
Yes, he is, as well as Linnell Henry, one of our players, senior who played at Prairie View, has won 3 SWAC championships, 2 at Prairie View, 1 at Alcorn. He's the lone Alcorn player. So Linnell Henry and Landon Bussey representing the Braves.
Hats off to them. Gonna check it out. It's a lot of sports activities going on. You still got March Madness, Charles. I tore my bracket up after the second day, but I'm gonna be interested, and we'll talk some Final Four with Mr. Kyle T. Mosley. We'll also talk with Coach Pettaway about that. Get his perspective on the Final Four, both on the women's side and the men's side. Gonna take a quick time out. And when I come back, I'm scheduled to visit with Jim Kleinpeter of The Advocate. He joins us next. You're watching The Colos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
For my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people and this classic Bible teaching say, make this for my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people and this classic Bible teaching, hey, motivation. For my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people and this classic Bible teaching say, make this for my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people and this classic Bible teaching, motivation.
Now, you can live in Texas and not have a good red meat blend. Texas Cowboy Dust is designed for steak and other red meats. It's out to be my most popular spice blend, made with onions, peppers, ground mushrooms, pink salt, and other spices. Texas Cowboy Dust also goes great with chicken, pork, vegetables, and adds a restaurant-quality sheen to gravies and sauces. Vanilla smoked sea salt seasoning is for seafood. The tarragon and fennel bring out the natural sweetness in seafood. I also use it in rice dishes, on yams, asparagus, blueberry pancakes, and believe it or not, chocolate chip cookies. Vanilla smoked sea salt adds a salty and savory component to sweet dishes that create a symphony for the tongue.
I have in me the ability to make you a better you. So if you work hard, focus, stay on point, you can do anything. Trust me.
We made this track to tell everybody they can follow their dreams.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can y'all see me? I can't see anybody. I just see the. I watched Carlos interview the guy.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation.
I can hear you.
Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, right here on the Black College Sports Network. I'm joined by Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network, and first guest of today's show, he covers Southern University athletics for the Advocate, Jim Kleinpeter. Jim, good morning to you.
Good morning, Carlos. Good morning, Charles.
Good morning.
I almost said good afternoon, Jim, but hey, it's still morning until 12 noon, but it's a pleasure to have you back on, and want to talk a couple of things with you, a couple of topics. One being Southern University spring football. I haven't had a chance to get out there yet, but last week's 60-play scrimmage, your overall thoughts on what you were able to see, albeit it's still just spring football, but it's important. But talk about a little bit of what you were able to see last Saturday.
Well, I wasn't supposed to be there, but I managed to sneak in and watched it from the tunnel. I was covering a baseball game, and I ran over and I got to see about the last hour of it. And I saw a lot of passing. There's a lot of RPOs. This is not the Southern offense I'm used to seeing. But this is everybody that knows Eric Dooley likes. He's an offensive-minded coach. He likes to throw the ball. He doesn't waste any time. He just gets out there and starts throwing it around. So I saw a lot of that. I saw a lot of quarterback runs. It's obvious to me that whoever wins the job is going to have to be able to be a runner as well as an accurate passer. So I know we're going to see a lot of that. Now, he said coming out of that scrimmage, Bubba McDaniel played pretty well. The junior college player he brought in at quarterback, Bashawn McCray, I think he was kind of getting snaps with the first team first. But I think Bubba sold himself pretty well in that first scrimmage. And I think all three of the quarterbacks are getting a lot of snaps with the first unit, and he made a point of that. He said we got to have them; they've got to be ready, and they've got to be used to that first unit. So, and he was trying to get a lot of people, and they're going to have a 100-play scrimmage today, and then the spring game. So, a lot of catching up over there that they're doing.
You know, it's interesting, Jim and Charles, because Charles mentioned a couple of weeks ago about Bubba McDaniels. And right after the scrimmage, Coach Dooley said he had a very good day. But somehow, Jim, I'm still trying to process this. And just what you said about the quarterback doing a lot of running, I just don't think of McDaniels, not saying that he's not athletic, but I'm thinking of him more of under Coach Odoms and Coach Rollins, someone that can get in and throw the ball. I guess what I'm saying is I've got to process it and get to the point where can I see McDaniels eventually leading this new offense under Coach Dooley? Albeit, guys, I know it's still early, but I think he's trying to give everybody a chance to see what they can do. And I looked at some of his comments. He doesn't need a guy that manages a game. He needs a guy that can come in and run the offense and make plays. So help me out, guys. I'm trying to process that. McDaniels, I just think this new offense is not his. He's not the guy, but I'm not the coach.
Well, the thing you got to remember here is Bubba's the only quarterback on the roster that has D1 college experience. He played a lot in 2 years. He played in 2019. He played a good bit, and then he missed almost all of the 2020 season with an injured thumb. But he played a lot of snaps last year, and even if he's not quite the runner that Bashawn McCray or Horace Blood are, he's cool, and he's better in the pocket, and this is the reason he played ahead of Ladarius Skelton. When he gets into the pocket, he has a better feel. He can avoid pressure. He knows when to step up. He knows when to move laterally, and he's not going to beat you running the ball. But I think one of the reasons they beat Alcorn was because Bubba was able to run the ball. He scrambled for a lot of big plays against Alcorn, and, because Alcorn was playing a lot of man defense. So he's good enough to be the quarterback in this offense.
Well, there you have it. I'm still, again, Charles, trying to process it. I see you nodding, but we shall see. Well, I remember as well. Go ahead, Charles.
Well, I was Jim just stole my thoughts, because when we went down there, Bubba McDaniels made 4 or 5 big runs when they were against the chains, and when they were behind the chains, he made some big runs. So if that's a new caveat to his game, because 2 years ago, I didn't think that was the case. I thought it was a sitting duck back there in the pocket. But obviously that's something that he's improved on with his game, being able to make plays, extend plays. So that's what Dooley's looking for. And he has the experience. So now you have to look at, and I thought, and Jim, you can help me, I just thought just in the politics of it all, you were going to play the guy that you brought in. But now you see McDaniel with the experience doing the things that he's doing, he may take the bull by the horns and win this job hands over if he continues to play well, especially with his ability to extend plays. So to me, I knew McDaniel had the big arm. We saw that, but he's a sitting duck. He was a sitting duck back there 2 years ago. Now it looks like he's transformed his game, and if with that thought, if he continues to improve, he may win this job hands over if he continues to play the way he played, at least in that first scrimmage.
He may, and he may not, because I also saw, Jim, I also saw in that Jackson State game, wow, just a completed a first down. The game's over. But anyway, and then FAMU, consistently doing it, and whoever wins it, they'll win it fair and square. How about that?
Well, let me throw you another curveball. When the spring is over, and I think you're going to see this. You're going to see this at every school. The players are going to take stock of how the spring practice went, and some are going to jump into the portal. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Eric Dooley looks in the portal, because he may not. He may say, "Yeah, I think we can do okay with Bubba." But there may be somebody better in the portal that I can bring in and get them ready in the summer and in fall practice. I would not rule that out.
Well, Jim, I've talked to people who who really has said the same thing. Coach Dooley, he's offensive coordinator plus the head coach. Valid point. Charles has a valid point. But based off of last Saturday, the thoughts were McDaniels had the best day of the quarterbacks. So we can all agree on that. Now, also some tidbits. Kobe Dillon and Jaron Sims, they're going to be featured a little bit more differently in Coach Dooley's offense. How did those guys, did they shine in the 60-play scrimmage?
Yeah, they're both. They threw the ball to them a lot, and they handed it to them. And those guys are they're similar. Kobe's a former quarterback, and he was a good scrambler. Sims is a little bit more of a power hard runner, but he's also got some elusiveness. So you get those guys in the open field, they're going to be hard to bring down. They catch the pass. They're both good receivers because they're both good athletes. They do everything well. And I think they're going to be. And he brought in a couple others. He's got some other backs in. They lost Craig Nelson, and to me, Craig Nelson I thought would have been ideal for Dooley's offense.
Yeah,
he's probably the best receiver of those three backs, but he went to the portal. So, but Sims and Dillon are going to running against spread out defensive formations. They're going to have a lot of success running and receiving.
Visiting with Jim Kleinpeter. He covers Southern University athletics for The Advocate. Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. It was interesting, Jim, and we're going to get to the offensive line. We'll do it now. 3 starters back. Center, Dallas Black, tackle, Jeremiah Stafford, and guard Brian Williams. They add some stability. I guess, Jim, they're going to look to add some more depth, and ideally you would like to play, at least we've seen in the past with Southern, playing not just because of injury, but playing a few more offensive linemen. So depth is, I guess, something that they're looking at to add along with competition on the offensive line.
Yeah, he brought in some help, some transfer help there. There's a guy, Charleston Paul. It looks like he's going to be the starting left tackle. And I think just like Jatari Carter, he was a tight end in high school, or has played some tight end, so he's very athletic. And that's what you need at the left tackle, because you got to be able to block those speed rushers. And when I was looking at the lineups, he was in their first team at left tackle. I can't think of who they got at right guard to take Jonathan Bishop's spot. But he's got some transfer linemen coming in that could compete. A couple of them are there now, and there's going to be a couple coming in the summer. So I think he's trying to build his depth there. He's really thinking hard about his offensive and defensive lines.
I'm going to get one more point in, and then I'll turn the floor over to Charles. I'm sure he has a question or two, but from the wide receiver corps, Coach Dooley talked about 2. And there'll be competition at that position as well. Reggie King from the Baton Rouge area, from Baton Rouge, and then Tyler Kirkwood. He mentioned those 2 had standout performances.
Yeah, he did. And he also brought a guy named Reggie King, and he brought in a guy named Isaiah Taylor. He's a transfer. He's there now, and I think they like him a good bit too. And then Chandler Whitfield. But he's got 4 more coming in the summer. He only could get 2 of the signees in January, and 1 was a transfer. So he's collecting wide receivers. He's going to have a bunch. He's probably going to have 12 or 13 of them that ready to go in. So he likes to shuffle them in. He likes Ethan Howard too. I thought I didn't see him play a lot of tight ends at Prairie View, but he says, no, it's important to us. We want to play a tight end. So, but Ethan Howard, he's one of those tight ends you can split him out. He's not. He's more tends toward a receiving tight end than a blocking tight end, but he's big enough to block too. So I think we're going to see him catch a lot of balls.
I call him, Charles and Jim, a hybrid. Ethan Howard, and he's a nightmare. He's for a linebacker matching up with him, and boy, that'll be something to continuously watch. I'll say this, guys. Coach Dooley is like a kid at Christmas. He's got a lot of presents under the tree, and he has an opportunity to kind of use them, play with them, manipulate them to their use. So it'll be interesting. We'll come back to the defensive side, but Charles, I'm sure you have something you want to ask Mr. Kleinpeter.
Well, I'm just curious, what we talked about in the previous segment, what's going on here as far as the Braves camp is concerned. I've been told that our defense is winning the scrimmage, the practices right now. Our scrimmage is next Saturday. Who's winning as far as offense versus defense? Is it too early to say? When we talk about Dooley, we talk about offense. But, of course, Southern's defense is the reason why they lost the Bayou Classic last year, especially in the last minute. Who's winning the battles there, offense or defense at this point?
I think right now it's the offense. And Southern's going to have some defensive guys that are going to come in the summer. There's a guy, they tried to get him last year. They tried to get him eligible last year. He's a transfer from Troy State, from Troy.
I'll look it up. He's defense. Yeah, defensive.
And they
back.
like him a lot, but they're not going to have him till this summer. I think he's in school now, but they're not. He's not going to be ready to play, ready to join the team until the summer. And I think they've got one cornerback spot put aside for him because he's a real deal there. And then across from Glenn Brown, but they're missing some of their depth, and they're looking for help, and it's people that are going to be coming in the summer. And then losing Davin Cotton, not having him this year is going to hurt. But they got some defensive tackles. He went heavy on defensive tackles and recruited, and some with a couple of transfers, a couple of freshmen. So I'd say right now the offense would be ahead of the defense, and that's what I saw. What little bit I could see, it looked like they were moving. They scored a lot of touchdowns when I was watching.
So do you think Dooley's philosophy of naming the starter by the end of spring camp, do you think that's still on track? Because you mentioned that he may be looking in the portal. Do you think that's still the case, or do you get a sense that, let's just see what else? We know we got McDaniel, and we know we got this, but then there's that sitting out there that you could possibly bring in. For me, if you bring somebody in out of the portal for fall camp, that's not a lot of time to get ready for the season. So that's why I understand this philosophy of wait until the spring to name a guy. Then you know who your guy is. You can work through that. Do you think the quarterback position will be nailed down by the spring, or do you think maybe your gut might tell you it still might be up for grabs?
I think he meant it when he said that he was going to name a starter. But if he does not think that starter can do the job, he will go to the transfer portal. He will go back to zero and go back to square one. That I think maybe Bubba caught him by surprise with what he did in that because I really think he thought Bashawn McCray was going to be the one who stood out. But Bubba just on that experience, and I think Bubba's a good enough runner to run this offense. I think he's going to end up being the starter in September. But you never know. You don't know who's going to portal, and you don't know what's going to happen, who might get hurt. Yeah, that's an option, and it doesn't hurt Bubba to know that this might be an option. It keeps him on edge, keeps him feeling like he's got to compete every second, even in the off season.
Do you think, Jim? And we hadn't mentioned much about Harold Blood, who comes from a great program in Desterham. Did you get a chance to see him? He's more of an RPO type of quarterback. Did you get a chance to see any of his play?
Yeah, he's ideal. He's the exact kind of guy that Dooley wants. He was
he's kind of a little bit of both.
He was a real good runner, and he threw he threw about a 50 or 60-yard touchdown pass. He ran for one. That's what I remember seeing. He looked okay. I couldn't tell if he was working with the ones or the twos or what. But I could see that that offense is made for him. So he's Southern's quarterback of the future. And with Bubba being a senior, maybe that's how maybe that's how Dooley's going to feel, and he may shy away from bringing in, going to the portal for a quarterback. So I like Harold Blood's chances. This is his third year there. I guess this will be his third season. Yeah. So I think he's got a future at Southern.
Well, it seems today, right now, Jim believes McDaniels. Seems like Charles is leaning that way as well. I'll still put a question mark there. I'm just an old toughie. Now, I mean, but one thing we know, Charles is laughing. I think the next two scrimmages will help someone. Either McDaniels solidify it coming out of the spring, because you're right. Coach Dooley wanted to name us, and I agree with you, Jim. I think he's going to do that. But I think there's going to be a window as well. But I guess what I'm saying, Jim, the next today and in the spring game will tell us a little bit more. Who's been the most consistent?
Yeah, 100-play scrimmage today. And he may be ready to say Bubba is clearly out in front right now after today, because at 100 plays, he's going to get a good long look at all three of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, Southern on the offensive side, I think we talked about the wide receivers, the tight end, the running backs, the quarterback play, offensive line. We talked about that a little bit. Also on the defense, you stated that the offense is ahead of the defense. Is there an opportunity when, let's say, the offense wins one spring scrimmage? I would like to see, and see if you guys agree, I would like to see the defense bounce back, because Dooley said that he likes to apply pressure. They didn't enforce enough turnovers, and they gave up too much. Hopefully the defense will bounce back. You like to see that. If the offense wins one scrimmage, then you want to see the defense come back and be competitive. What do you guys think about that?
You want me to go first? He says Jordan Lewis is having a good spring. That's the key to Southern's defense, because he creates waves for the defense. Everything he does, he creates interceptions just with his pressure. He forces fumbles. He's all over the field. He's fast. It's interesting to see how they're going to use him. And I haven't got a good feel for what kind of defensive plan Dooley wants to use, but I liked what they've done with him, and what Odoms and Jason Rollins did. They moved him around. Don't let the defense key on him. Put him on the left side, put him on the right side, put him in the middle. Different places. Make them have to adjust their defense. On the fly. So that's going to determine a lot. And then they got to find some linebackers. And they got two new. They're going to be bringing in two new ones. So he's got four, and he's got some transfers that have some college experience. So he should be okay there.
Jason Greathouse, defensive All-American, JUCO, coming in for the summer, and Mr. Cunningham, transfer from JUCO, played at the University of Oregon. I know Coach Miller talked about, and Coach Graves, about them getting there, and they're going to expect. And Jim, I think you said earlier, as far as the defensive line depth, some of those freshmen and JUCOs that are coming, they're going to be counted on to help, because I know the depth is a concern. And that's always, because when I had Coach Miller on the show a couple of weeks ago, based on what he did at Prairie View and Arkansas Pine Bluff, they like to play a lot of people, so their starters are fresh in the fourth quarter. And so Dooley made the comment that he's got to, he's going to look at the film, but I think it's still a work in progress defensively where they need to be.
Yeah, especially losing Davin Cotton. That's That's a big
Yeah.
loss. So he was their best. He was their best defensive lineman. So, yeah, they're going to have some work to do in the offseason and in fall camp. But that's why I say the defense is a little bit behind. But if they can keep Jordan Lewis healthy, they have the tools. They have good enough players.
Yeah. Well, if we can we switch to Charles's favorite sport? I don't know if I ever asked Charles that. What broadcasting, which is his favorite, he does them all. But Southern University baseball. Boy, I've been getting some comments, some emails, concerned. But hey, they were able to take 2 out of 3 from Grambling, and then Texas Southern last night. This baseball team, Jim and Charles, they had a very tough non-conference schedule. So it's still early. Don't panic. Don't panic is my message about Southern baseball. We'll see. What are your thoughts on Southern baseball, Jim, so far?
Well, they've struggled, and the funny thing is, they've struggled with their hitting. Their pitching is actually at times it's been pretty good, better than I expected.
Starting pitching or bullpen?
All of it, But it's just they've had a couple of guys. They've had a handful of guys that have been pretty consistent, but he was bringing in a lot of new guys. He lost like his top 5 innings guys from last year. 5 seniors that gave him a lot of composure on the mound, and really talent without composure, it doesn't last long. So he's gotten enough pitching now, I think, if he can keep Christian Davis straight. Joseph Battaglia is like a machine. He goes out there and he throws a quality start every time. But the batters, it's just in the last 3 games, it seems like the Southern batters are finally. It's not that they're hitting the ball; it's that they're having better quality at bats. They've been working more for walks. They've been fouling pitches off and getting a better pitch to hit. So they had a season high against Grambling of 13 hits. They had 11 against Magnesia. They only had 7, but that's a pretty good starting pitcher they went against at Texas Southern, Jordan Martinez. And he was struggling with the umpire a little bit. I think the umpire was squeezing the plate last night on him at least. But Southern, they came up with timely hits. They only had 7, but they were timely. They had finally had a big inning. They had a 4-run inning. Southern's been having a lot of 1-run innings where they leave 2-3 guys on base, and they just need that other big hit, like to put some crooked numbers on the scoreboard. And that's what they got. They finally got that last night, and they've been doing a little bit better with that last 3 games.
Charles, if we look at this baseball team, and if we look at last year, they didn't win the division, but they started off kind of rocky, and then they were able to get better as the season went. And then by the time the tournament came about, of course, they went on to win it. Do you think this is a type of team again this year that will kind of maybe have their best baseball ahead of them as far as toward the end of the season and the tournament?
Yep, I think that's the case for a number of teams. I think when you lose quality arms, and we talked about Jackson State in the last segment, Jackson State lost Galatas and a lot of those guys that can hold teams in check. When you lose the quality arms that a Jackson or a Southern has lost, you just don't replace those guys the next year. You're going to give up some runs. So I think that's what's happening with Southern. That's what's happening with other teams. But then what Jim is talking about with Southern, to me, and of course I'll get a chance to see them a couple of times when they come here and we go there, they're getting the runners in position. It's the LOB column, left on base. When you leave 10 runners on base, that means you've had opportunities. You just can't get them home. First and second, nobody out. You sacrifice. You got a sac fly. You got to run. You get an error. You get another run. I mean, you get the opportunity. If you can't knock them in, then you haven't done much. And I think that's kind of been the case that what Southern is going through now. They're getting the opportunities, which you like to see. But if you don't get them home, that's a whole nother set of issues. So I think right now, for what Southern has been able to do, and they're to beat a very good pitcher I saw I saw Martinez when they came here. He's their best guy. He's their number one arm. And so, for them to be able to get that done, I think Southern's still the team. And I think you have to just be patient. We're just not patient right now. I mean, everybody wants to see 20-1 and everybody wants to see a 7-game winning streak. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. It's just not, because it's still too
I'll
early.
take it, Charles.
Right? I get it. If you're a fan, yeah, but the reality is the reality. And I'm a little bit more realistic, and I'm a little bit more patient. Southern, no one talked about Southern in May until they hoisted that championship trophy. So I think that's what you got to look at. And hey, I mean, I think for other teams in the league, Alcorn coming in, I think it's going to be interesting. So I'm just willing to wait a little bit and just see how things play out. But I think, when you lose the arms that you lost, it's hard to recover that the next year. It's going to take time. It's going to take innings. It's going to take a lot of work. And I think Southern's getting there. To me.
Well, I'll say this. I'm sure Jackson State fans, they're going to say, Charles, that sounds great. You're actually right. You really are. But if we don't start winning, there's going to be toughness about having thick skin with Jackson State coach. But I will say this, Coach Omar, he deserves. He'll turn it around. Too good of a coach. Had great success at Jackson State, and you're right. It's still early. It's still early. Jim, you wanted to say something else? Add on to it.
I'm good.
Okay. Well, with that being said, before I ask you who's going to win the NCAA tournament championship, if you played a bracket, did you tear it up after day 2?
I'm like everybody else. I felt, but you know what? I felt like my brackets can't be that much worse than anybody else's.
Yeah.
So I wasn't that concerned. When somebody like St. Peter's wins, it's like everybody's messed up now. So you're just at the top of a smaller heap. You may be still near the top of a smaller heap, So I don't worry too much about that. That's what's so fun about it, If you could, what if you could have been the person to find to find that St. Peter's and pick them? But no, we all play it safe in the bracket. You know that.
Right. Well, and guess what? My women's bracket is much better. I played it for the first time. Much better than the men. So we'll move on from that with the brackets. Who wins it? Who wins it Monday night? Who hoists the trophy up?
Oh boy. Yeah. I know everybody wants to say Duke. Everybody, for sentimental purposes, give Coach K one more. I kind of like Villanova. I don't know.
They're
something about the way they got there, and I like that coach. And I don't know. So it's when you get to there, it's almost it's hard. It's really, I think sometimes it comes down to the refereeing. Which refereeing style benefits the team the best. So we'll see. But I'm going to go with Villanova.
All right, Charles, you want to take a stab at it?
Well, my heart tells me Kansas. I'm from the Midwest, so Kansas is kind of my Midwest team. They're the only 1 seed left. My heart tells me Kansas, but I'm going to go with Duke because they're the story. I mean, everybody kind of wrote Duke off. Coach K's last home game at Cameron and at North Carolina handed it to him, and now here we go again. I think Duke's going to get North Carolina, and I think it's going to be Duke and Kansas for the national championship. And I'm going to go with Coach K. I mean, this has kind of been the year in which these big storylines play out. The Rams go all in and win the whole thing. And, all these different storylines kind of play themselves out. Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl in Tampa and all that. So I think the storyline is Coach K, and I'm gonna go with Duke. I think Duke's gonna beat North Carolina, and I do think Duke's gonna beat Kansas, and they're gonna hoist the trophy. I'm going with Duke.
Yeah, okay, that is an opinion. Quickly,
come on,
Villanova. I just love them. Villanova, they're tough. They're coaching. You're going to be in a battle, even if you win. I just love that toughness. I think Villanova gets it done. Simple as that. Jim, I appreciate the time. Next time we talk, we'll maybe have to talk about Coach Woods. There was some rumblings about Coach Wood at Southern as far as men's basketball coach. Once again, believe it or not, I believe he deserves to stay and keep getting it done, get closer and closer. And he's going to be back. So next time we'll talk about Coach Woods. He's another tough guy. It's a toughness on today's show, Jim. But have a great weekend. Appreciate the time, Jim. Enjoy yourself. And we'll talk again real soon.
My pleasure, Carlos. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure as well. Appreciate it. That was Jim Kleinpeter. He covers Southern University athletics for the Advocate. You want to take a timeout when we come back, Charles? You ready to talk with Coach Pettaway?
Absolutely.
He is the guy. He keeps me calm. You try, Charles. You try, yeah. But you see, I wasn't as confident about Bubba McDaniels, but guess what? He's a great person, and he's one thing I admire about him. He stuck it out. He could have transferred. You know what I'm saying? So hey, he's fighting for it, and may the best man win. Let me do this before we go to a timeout. Acknowledge some of the people that are watching. Now it's not morning, it's afternoon. But appreciate Chuck Hunt from Monroe watching in. W. Sherman Miller, believe he's an Alcorn alum. Appreciate you watching. Derek Carson watching. Johnny Johnson, great guy. Know him personally. Appreciate you watching. Avis Heath. Charles, do you know Avis Heath? To me, he's one of the top Jackson State alum / fans.
I do not know Avis Heath. The name doesn't sound familiar.
I've met him.
Yeah.
I met him, and put it this way, we're twins almost, the way we feel about our respective universities, and we don't play. You win or you hit the highway. Appreciate you. Also, let's see, Michael Cavaliers watching. Appreciate you. Chad Cooper, appreciate you. Theo Quest Major, appreciate you as well. And I'll read some of the comments after we come back. But you're watching the Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be right back.
Majesty is a premium health and wellness tea line focused on bringing delicious yet healthy tea blends to the community. Filled with an abundance of vitamins and antioxidants, we work to blend teas with exotic spices and fruits to produce scrumptious and wholesome beverages. So check us out at mymajesties.com. That's MyMajesties.com. My Majesties, an Urban Passport member.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell them mama hungry.
For my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people and this classic Bible teaching say, make this for my people that don't get to see me. Trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people and this classic Bible teaching. Hey, 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 hey. Motivation. For my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people and this classic Bible teaching say, make this for my people that don't get to see me. Trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people and this classic Bible teaching. Hey, 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 hey. Motivation.
Now, you can live in Texas and not have a good red meat blend. Texas Cowboy Dust is designed for steak and other red meats. It's out to be my most popular spice blend, made with onions, peppers, ground mushrooms, pink salt, and other spices. Texas Cowboy Dust also goes great with chicken, pork, vegetables, and adds a restaurant-quality sheen to gravies and sauces. Vanilla smoked sea salt seasoning is for seafood. The tarragon and fennel bring out the natural sweetness in seafood. I also use it in rice dishes, on yams, asparagus, blueberry pancakes, and believe it or not, chocolate chip cookies. Vanilla smoked sea salt adds a salty and savory component to sweet dishes that create a symphony for the tongue.
I have in me the ability to make you a better you. So if you work hard, focus, stay on point, you can do anything. Trust me.
We made this track to tell everybody they can follow their dreams.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Coles Brown, joined by Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network, and now joined by Coach Vann Pettaway, former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. Coach, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Carlos. It's good to hear your voice again. I'm enjoying myself down here in the Big Easy. A little wet this morning, so I got a thing or two to say about you people down here. I thought I was coming down here to enjoy a few days of sunshine, and the sky opened up on me this morning as I was on my way to my meeting. So, I had to change shirts real quick.
My. Well, I will say that shirt looks outstanding on you, and you know what? It was cloudy here, but maybe just a little sprinkle of rain. So wait a minute, it poured down in New Orleans?
Well, no, I had.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it rained here in New Orleans, and so I had to get wet because I had about 4 blocks to get to the convention center.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand. Well, I apologize for that rain. How about that, Coach Pettaway?
All right. Well, you can make up for it by suggesting a good Cajun seafood place for lunch.
You know what? During the break, I'll inquire that knowledge from someone who would know, and then I'll have it for you. And if that person's listening now, maybe can write me a little note about a good place to eat in New Orleans. I'm sure there's about over 2 dozen of them close by. But speaking of weather, Alabama A&M baseball and softball facilities. Severe damage reported from that spring storm that swept from Texas all the way to the East Coast. How is everybody doing? What's the latest on the facilities, Coach, if you know?
Well, I don't know because I've been down here for the basketball for the Final Four, so I have not had an opportunity to actually see the damage or to talk to anybody about that damage. But I do know that there was plenty of damage in Huntsville from the storms.
Wow. Coach, and some people say they don't really believe in global warming and climate change. Okay, you can have your beliefs, but I cannot remember when you're seeing. And then I'm gonna move off of the weather. Growing up in Louisiana, you only saw tornadoes basically on television. That happened in the Midwest. Coach and Charles, now you're seeing this more often, even in the deep South. Something's going on, but believe what you want. But anyway, I'll get off the weather, guys. But if you have a comment, you can.
I'll say this: there was a tornado in New Orleans. How long ago was that? Just a few days ago. Big time
Right.
tornado
Last week.
in the heart of New Orleans. I think that's all that you need to know. I just think global warming is real. These storms are coming more frequently and they're more violent, and there's a lot more action with them. So there's something causing that. That's for sure.
Right. And
Yeah.
I'm a believer in global warming also. And unfortunately, here in New Orleans, the tornado hit the Ninth Ward. And the Ninth Ward was the place that Katrina really devastated. So, those people, they're getting a double whammy. And that's just unfortunate. But the bad weather's everywhere because we have a place in Huntsville that we call Tornado Alley. This same place has been hit 4 different times, and that's why we
Wow.
named it Tornado Alley. And one of our legendary coaches lives in that area. That's Joe Henderson, who's won a couple of national championships as our women's track coach. His house and his neighborhood has gotten it 4 years. 4 different years they got tornadoes in that same area.
Wow. Guys, do we need a national insurance policy? Probably not. They'll probably not go for that. But you got to fight the insurance company, and boy, it's just a tough situation. You could be resilient and be tough and toughness, but at some point, 4 years in a row or 4 times, that's
No,
tough,
4
man.
times over a period of years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's still tough. How much
Yeah.
can you take? Speaking of that, and Charles kind of made me aware of it. Alabama A&M men's basketball coach, Charles.
Right, the search is underway.
Oh my!
Right.
What happened?
Well, there's all kind of rumors out there. They're saying that coach was offered a 2-year extension and he refused. Well, I'm here to tell you, I talked to him personally since I've been here in New Orleans. He's here at the Final Four. He says don't believe the hype. He was never offered a 2-year extension. He says, Coach, if they had given me a 2-year extension, I would have signed it. So I don't know who to believe. All I know is that we do have an opening. There is a ongoing search. I am part of that search committee, and in fact, we've got a meeting coming up Monday, which will be our second meeting. But we're looking for a great coach who can help get Alabama A&M back to his winning ways, and that's what they're looking for. And we've had quite a bit of interest in this job. The computer-wise, and Charles, you can help me with this. They had over 217 hits. Now I'm not quite sure what that means. I don't think it's 217 resumes, but they said they had over 217 inquiries about the position.
Interesting.
I'm not sure what that is as far as applicant. I don't know if that's applicants or people that might have clicked on a link.
Right. I think that's what. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what. I mean, just in my well, 2 things. And I don't know how much you can speak to it because you are on the committee. When I read and heard that Coach Howard was let go, I almost fell out. Well, I did. I fell out of my chair. I'm like, this guy got A&M to the semifinals,
right,
of the tournament. And I kind of me and Carlos talked about this before. I kind of refer to him kind of like with Dawson Odoms. Now, Dawson Odoms resigned to take the Norfolk job, but there was times in which Alabama A&M wasn't eligible for the postseason. They had some sanctions, but yet I thought Coach Howard did a good job in representing that program. And I thought through the tough times, he stood tall. And I thought, with the new arena coming on board, I thought he would be given an opportunity, kind of refresh of the program. Because usually when you have a new arena, it's kind of a fresh start. And I was really disappointed that he did not, get the deal and he was let go. What can you tell us about that? I mean, what were the reasons or reasons? Did he not win enough? So, I mean, because it is kind of confusing because he took A&M further than a lot of people expected them to this year.
Right. I thought he did a good job also coming down the stretch. He galvanized that team. And then going back to what you said earlier, when he first got the position, they were still on probation. So he brought them through the probationary period. In fact, he helped get them off of probation. And then the thing that he wanted to sell was that each year that he's been the coach, they've improved their winning percentage. They improved the number of wins. And then, of course, down the stretch, I think they won, 7 out of their last 9 games. So he had them going. He had them going in the right direction. And the only thing that's been released by the athletic department is that the two parties could not agree on a contract, and that's what was given publicly. And he, I'm telling you now, I just talked to him yesterday in person, and he said, "Coach, don't believe the hype. That's not true." He says he was never offered an extension. He said, "Coach, if they had given me a 1-year extension, I would have accepted it." He said, "But no, I did want more, but I was never given that opportunity."
Wow, that is interesting because I couldn't think of another word. Right. I mean, you could go a couple of places with that. Mr. Hicks is the director of athletics. Well, all I'm gonna ask is, Coach, when do you think will be a time frame that a coach will be selected? Will it be as quick as possible, or they're going to take their time?
No, they're going to take their time. They're not going to rush through the process. I think they're going to take their time. Now, this is just me. I've not talked to anybody. I would think within the next 3 weeks, they'll name a coach. I don't think it'll get done any quicker than that.
Okay. Well, Coach, let me ask you this real quick then. You know the landscape well. You know the program well. And Carlos and I talk about it all the time when it's time to hire a coach. We always put our AD's hats on. What's the best fit? So what's the best fit? You being a long-time coach at A&M yourself, and you're on the committee. What's the best fit for a head basketball coach at Alabama A&M?
I think it's got to be a guy who's going to have an aggressive team. I think he's got to be up-tempo. And the biggest thing, he's got to get involved in the community. He's got to be a community person. He can't be a coach it cannot be a coach that just wants to coach basketball. If that's all they want to do, it's not going to work. They got to get out and engage the community. They got to get out and engage our students. I was on just about every committee that they had that involved our students because I wanted them to see me because, I challenged them. I'm in here with you guys. I expect to see you all in Elmo. And they turned out. The records will show that we had, if we were either first or second in attendance every year in attendance. And that's because I got out along with my staff. We engaged the student body. We did things in the community where we were a community team. And so those people came out and supported our program. So that new coach, he can't just coach that team now. Yeah, he's got to be in there. He's got to get in there, and he needs to be a player's coach, that kind of thing. But he and his team, they need to engage that community. They got to get involved.
In other words, it's more than now X's and O's. That's important,
right?
But it's also being, as you stated, out in the community. And one of the things, Coach, that I've been watching on social media is the importance of social media and how it helps build a university's brand, both athletically and from the academic side. Is it important for the new coach to be involved in that? Here's where I'm going. I've seen coaches now, showing them in practice, teaching, and that brings not only the coach in the limelight, but the players in the university. How important is that, in your opinion, to being part of the overall package for a coach?
Well, I think it's good, but now is that his job? I think that's where your telecommunication, that's where your sports information. I think all those people have to be on board with that, and they can provide that because if I was coaching now, I wouldn't mind cameras being in practice or them filming things that we're doing. That's a part of a branding. That's a part
Right.
of getting your program
Mm-hmm.
out there. And I think yes, that has to come into play. And then if I had to put my AD hat on now, this is Vann Pettaway, the AD. See, there's
Mm-hmm.
several coaches in this league I would ask permission to talk to. I like what some of these coaches in the league are already doing. In fact, I'm gonna be honest. You two guys are sitting on coaches that I would ask my people to interview. I would ask
And coach, and coach, I have my AD hat on, and you're asking for a request to talk to Coach Woods. I may have to deny that. No.
I know, and I definitely would be asking to talk to Coach Bussey because he has
Yeah.
a style of play. His philosophy and what that young man has done in 2 years, I would love to see that on the hill. But that's Vann Pettaway, the AD officio. That's all. That's just me and my thoughts. Yeah, but no, I'm serious.
I got you.
Yeah. Because we got some great coaches in this league, and I would love. And they're not the only two. There are at least two others in this league that I would love to see on the hill. But we'll see. We'll see.
What about someone that's not in the conference? I mean, say for example, what are the chances of someone in general getting maybe a good top number one assistant from, say, a mid-major team? Would that be very difficult?
No, I don't think it's going to be difficult. I think Alabama A&M has a lot. They have a lot to offer a coach. When you look at the new facility coming in, you look at that'll be in. They'll be able to play in that in the fall. You look at the tradition of basketball since the '80s. That's been pretty decent, and the city of Huntsville. You're in the largest city in the state of Alabama. You're in a very progressive city. Is very family oriented. That's why I haven't left. That's why Huntsville's still my home because it's a great city, it's a great community. So Alabama A&M is a great family place. So we have a lot to offer a coach, and yes, it can be an assistant at another program, and we're going to get those people. I think some have already applied. Um, I think an assistant coach who wants to be a head coach would be ideal. But if you're looking at if there are sitting coaches that need a change, so you're gonna leave all that on the table. You don't close your options off. It doesn't have to necessarily be an assistant. It can be a sitting head coach somewhere. But one of the things that they have done, and with their qualifications, they've actually that our next coach has to have Division I basketball experience. So that eliminates a lot of your JUCO coaches. It eliminates a lot of your D2 coaches and that thing. So and high school. So that's tough. You left a lot of people off the table when Yep.
That is interesting because we often talk about on this show, and we get into some interesting discussions about opportunities. Even locally here, since you're in Louisiana, they have some very successful high school coaches. Your AD hat is on again, Coach Pettaway. Boy, you didn't think you were going to have an AD hat on this episode. I've got in discussions with individuals from a high school coach. How hard can they make the adjustment going from high school, which is kind of different, than going on the collegiate level? Should they be afforded the opportunity, or would it be too tough? What is your opinion on that?
Heck yeah, they should be given that opportunity. And I give you, we got a prime example in the state of Alabama. Bucky, who's now the head coach at Samford University, he won 4 state championships. He moved over from Mountain Brook High School to the head coaching job at Samford University, which is Division I, and they won over 20-some games this year. They got an opportunity to play in postseason play. He's a prime example of a high school coach that went from high school to Division I basketball and was a success. At the University of Alabama, Nate Oates coached at Romeo's High School in Detroit. Now, he did have 1 or 2 years of assistant coach on his resume, but he was a successful coach at Buffalo and now at the University of Alabama. So, yes, it can be done. I think it's the individual, it's the person, it's their style of play. It's how they connect with their players. That's what will make that person a good collegiate coach. And knowing the landscape. And both of these guys, what they did, surround themselves with experienced people. They were not college coaches, but they made sure they got experienced college assistants. And both of those programs are programs that we emulate. Those are 2 of the top programs in our state. And they're being coached by guys who have the high school background. Not Bucky, no college experience.
There you go. For those who we talked about it. Go ahead, Charles.
Well, Carlos, we've had 3 examples in our conference. If you go way back, Ronnie Courtney, who was a head coach at Texas Southern, he was one of the most successful high school coaches in Texas.
Remember him?
Here at Alcorn, Luther Riley, one of the most successful coaches in Mississippi. Didn't exactly work out here, but Wayne Brent at Jackson State, the most successful high school coaches. You got a guy right now, Thomas Billups, who's one of the most successful high school coaches, is now at Tougaloo College. Probably is waiting for a D1 opportunity somewhere because he's done a good job there. So we've had that here in Mississippi where we've had coaches who've had that opportunity. So it's not uncommon, but it's rare. And all one coach needs is a chance to win
opportunity.
One level coach in this conference, and I guarantee we're all copycats now. So if it happens one time, I guarantee another program will probably take a chance on it as well. So it has happened. It's been mixed reviews, but it has happened in this league.
Right. And since I've been here in New Orleans and Alabama A&M made it public that I was on the search committee, I've had all kind of people stop me. And one of the main questions, this Coach Bozeman, that used to be at Morgan State, coached at University of California, he stopped me on yesterday. And he said, Coach, tell me about the job at Alabama A&M. He said, and I hear that you all want to make a big splash, like Jackson State did with Deion Sanders. And I told him, I said, Coach, I'm not on the committee for a big splash. I'm on the committee to find the best person for the job. And that person has to be somebody that, number one, wants to be at Alabama A&M. They're not using it as a stepping stone. And number two, they need to have a proven track record. Now, I don't care if it's on the high school level, the JUCO level, or the collegiate level. As long as they've got a proven track record, then I'll look and support that coach. And I just told him, I said, if you're interested in the job, just put it in. Don't believe the hype. We're not looking for a big splash. There's not a splash out there. Who's out there that would come to Alabama A&M that would be that big name recognition? I don't know of anybody that's interested. I have not seen all the applicants, so I don't know if it could be one on the desk when I get back. But up to this point, I've not heard about anyone, and I don't think that's the route that our administration wants to go in. I don't think we're looking for a big splash. We're looking for the best fit for Alabama A&M basketball. And we want to put ourselves in a position where we don't have to be visiting this again. In other words, we don't have to put together another search committee. We want a coach that's committed and that's going to be there, that's going to get the job done, and help our athletes to win basketball games and be better individuals. And we don't need it like what's happening here in Louisiana now. They fired their coach and all the players left. They got one player left on that team. One player. 11 people entered the portal. We talked about the portal this morning in our meeting. It's destroying good programs because it's too easy for the kids to get in. Between the portal and the NIL, man, we can talk about that for weeks. The pros and cons. There are more cons than pros because it's destroying programs. It's destroying stability of teams. You get a kid with an NIL sitting next to a guy whose parents don't have as much. That creates a problem, man, within your team. And I don't think all these things were. I don't think all of this was thought out before they implemented this. This is they're learning as you go. But in the meantime, what's the collateral damage? You got kids leaving. You got jealousy on teams because everybody doesn't have a piece of the pie. And I think that's something that the NCAA is going to have to look at. They already know it's a problem. It's a big problem. And then the other thing that we discussed this morning, the HBCUs, I don't know of one of us that has partnered with these different agencies that are out there right now. You got different agencies that will do the NILs for the entire school. They tell me that's very expensive. So when you say the word expensive, doesn't that hurt us, the HBCUs? Because we already fighting budget constraints. So how can we afford to hire an agency that their only job is to help our athletes with these NIL deals? Because contrary to popular belief, the coaches are not supposed to be involved in the NIL no kind of way. But it's happening. You hear the rumors about coaches in the SWAC that are doing. You can't do that. So it's just going to be a matter of time before if they're doing it, it's going to be a matter of time before they get caught.
Charles, I've said, dot your I's and cross your T's and do the right thing. And that's kind of what I meant about what Coach Pettaway has said. And I've heard those same things about, and I won't mention any names, about some coaches are being a little bit too involved with their hands in the cookie jar. But anyway, go ahead, Charles, and we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, the NIL stuff, that's something that's still diluted and convoluted, and that will eventually come to a head, and there's going to be some stuff coming down the line, I think, dealing with that, because it is out of control, just like the transfer portal is out of control.
Yep.
And Coach Pettaway, I was on last week, but even in the SWAC, you got names right now that have left these programs after this last season. Jalen Johnson at Alabama A&M, one of the best centers in the league in the transfer portal. Kid from Jackson State, McInnes, is in the transfer portal. Travis Etienne of Texas Southern, Coach Landon Bussey confirmed that on his last show. I mean, that was a shocker. All three of them are shockers. Right. So these programs are going to change with these new coaches. New coach at Jackson, new coach at Alabama A&M. Of course, Etienne leaving Texas Southern, considering what they did. So the transfer portal is impacting our programs, big time, and that's something that these coaches have to deal with. But I will say this about Alabama A&M. I mean, you talk about coaches. I think coaches are interested because of Huntsville, as you mentioned, and of course, coaches want to see facilities. When you have a brand spanking new arena coming online, that's going to attract a whole bunch of coaches because they know that arena is a recruiting and a selling point. So I think that being said, that's going to bring out a lot of quality coaches in that program, and they know that the coaches who have families, wives and kids, they know that Huntsville is one of the most growing cities in Alabama. I think the most populated, got the Space Center and everything else going on up there. So I think the new arena, the city of Huntsville, will be good as a good attraction to land good quality coaches at least good quality applicants anyway at Alabama A&M.
Right. Yep.
Well, Coach, I'm glad that I know you. So if anybody says it's tampering involved, I'll say it's not true. With that being said, Final Four. We got a minute left.
Okay.
Who wins it all? Who wins it all, Coach?
I'm gonna go with Duke. I'm gonna go with the sentimental favorite. I think they're gonna win it. And then on the women's side, I'm going with South Carolina now.
Yeah.
For the championship.
That's
they're through with their Final Four. But on the men's side, I got Duke.
Well, Charles stated Duke for sentimental reasons, and I went for toughness. I went with Villanova. They just, they tough. If they lose, you're going to have to really beat them.
Well, they're down to 6 men. They did have a 7-man rotation. Now they're down to 6. I think attrition. Yeah. I don't think they're going to be deep enough to beat Kansas and then another school. No, I think it's going to be too much for 6 players. That's the only reason why I don't have Jay Wright in there.
Right, Coach. I think they're going to shock the world. Where did I hear that before? Okay. Muhammad Ali.
Well, shock us.
But if not, I'll blame it on somebody else. Maybe I'll blame it on Charles.
All right.
Well, Coach, appreciate the time. We'll talk next week.
Okay. Hey, thanks, guys, and everybody. Be safe and God bless.
All right,
You're
Coach,
absolutely right. Take care, Coach. We're going to take a quick time out, Charles. You ready to talk to one more person? That person, we're at least scheduled to join with Kyle T. Mosley, managing editor, head reporter, Saints News, HBCU, Legends, Pelican, Scoop. He's a Morehouse alum from New Orleans, Louisiana. We're scheduled to talk with him next. You're watching The Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
Majesty is a premium health and wellness tea line focused on bringing delicious yet healthy tea blends to the community. Filled with an abundance of vitamins and antioxidants, we work to blend teas with exotic spices and fruits to produce scrumptious and wholesome beverages. So check us out at mymajesties.com. That's mymajesties.com. My Majesties. an Urban Passport member.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell them mama hungry.
For my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people and this classic Bible teaching say, make this for my people that don't get to see me. Trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people and this classic Bible teaching. Hey, 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 hey. Motivation. For my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people and this classic Bible teaching say, make this for my people that don't get to see me. Trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people and this classic Bible teaching. Hey, 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 hey. Motivation.
Now, you can't live in Texas and not have a good red meat blend. Texas Cowboy Dust is designed for steak and other red meats. It's out to be my most popular spice blend, made with onions, peppers, ground mushrooms, pink salt, and other spices. Texas Cowboy Dust also goes great with chicken, pork, vegetables, and adds a restaurant-quality sheen to gravies and sauces. Vanilla smoked sea salt seasoning is for seafood. The tarragon and fennel bring out the natural sweetness in seafood. I also use it in rice dishes, on yams, asparagus, blueberry pancakes, and believe it or not, chocolate chip cookies. Vanilla smoked sea salt adds a salty and savory component to sweet dishes that create a symphony for the tongue.
I have in me the ability to make you a better you. So if you work hard, focus, stay on point, you can do anything. Trust me.
We made this track to tell everybody they can follow their dreams.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
Welcome Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We're scheduled to talk with Kyle T. Mosley, and we're trying to make the adjustment to get him on. If we're not able to this week, I'll make sure we'll schedule him for next week. In this segment, we'll take a look at SWAC baseball standings in a second, but I want to give you some information as far as Southern University spring football and an event that they're going to have the day before the spring game at A.W. Mumford Stadium. As you can see, Southern Football Alumni Social Event is Friday, April the 8th. SU Football Alumni Friday Night Social. Of course, it's going to be former athletes, former football alumni that are going to be at this event. And I actually think it's a great idea. You're reaching back. You're making those who were student athletes back to the program. So that's something Southern University is putting together Friday, April 8th. And then, of course, the spring game is April the 9th. At 3 p.m. at A.W. Mumford Stadium. I plan to attend, Charles. I'm not going to allow you to come, okay? Because you'll get a scouting report. And although Southern finally got the curse off of them in defeating Alcorn last year in the football game on a last-second field goal attempt, you're going to be barred away from it. But next, I knew you would enjoy that. Next Saturday, April the 9th at 3 p.m., the spring game. But you'll be busy anyway.
Yeah, I'll be busy anyway. But I'll have some intel there that will be able to give me some information. I'm sure you'll give me a nugget or two. But clearly, I just want to say that Coach Dooley's making all the right moves in terms of in the court of public opinion. Hiring coaches that are close to Southern University or have been former players, bringing alums back, former players back, having that big event. I think that's exactly the way you have to do it. And so for me, just on the outside looking in, and I said this when he was hired, and just some of the moves he made and some of the coaches he's brought on staff, he's doing it the right way, and it's nothing strange, nothing different. People familiar with the program, and I think that's exactly the way you have to do it. And hey, if that gala raises a lot of money for the football program, that's icing on top of the cake. So I like what Dooley's doing. Now I think the question is, can that translate into wins and losses on the field? Because you know this, and the Jaguar Nation knows this. They need to win some games, and but I think he's doing all the right things off the field to try to help make that happen.
Right, and then you bring former players back. Some of those former players are doctors, attorneys, football coaches, and it's about building relationships. Now, they're former, so you've already had a relationship, and Coach Dooley coached at Southern previously. So he's already had some relationships, but it's still a good way, not only for Coach Dooley, but all the assistant coaches to make those alumni, those alums, those former student athletes, those former football players comfortable. And it shows a lot reaching back. And that's part of the things you want to do. You want to do everything right. And then, of course, finally, you have to win on the field. But it's the first right steps. So I agree with that. With that being said, 2022 baseball standings, and I do believe they're up to date. In the East, Bethune-Cookman, and then this is a conference record. They're on a 3-game winning streak. I said previously, Charles, that they are the class of the league so far. They're number one. I'll put it that way. They're 7-1. Alabama State, right them, big series with Jackson State, 5-2. FAMU's kind of come back down to earth a little bit. Sorry about that, Brian. 3-3 in conference play. Alabama A&M, 3-3. You said that coach would have this team. Give him some time. He's going to build this baseball program. And then Mississippi Valley State 2-5, Jackson State 1-6. Trying to give them an extra game, an extra win. In the West, Texas Southern 5-2, Prairie View A&M 4-3, Grambling State 4-3, Southern 4-3, Arkansas Pine Bluff 1 game behind 3-4, Alcorn State 1-6. Based off the records, the West is extremely tough. Parity, close right now, albeit it's early. Bethune-Cookman and Alabama State, the class of the East, but FAMU and Alabama A&M right a step behind. But those, Charles, are the standings right now.
Yeah, as far as the East is concerned, I mean, we talked about the disappointment of Jackson State. Clearly, I've always felt that Alabama A&M was a program that was right on the cusp of doing some really good things. But with Manny Laura over there, former coach, I think that's former player. I think he's going to do some good things. Young guy, hungry, and then they have a coach also over there, a young guy that's pretty good as a coach as well. Manny Laura, the former coach. They have another coach at Alabama A&M, a former Jaguar, that's the head coach there. He's going to be really good too. Young whippersnapper, young guy that's hungry. We heard about Bethune-Cookman being really solid in baseball. I mean, didn't know a lot other than Melendez was there and he won all those MEAC titles over there. They still have a solid program. Our former baseball coach Brett Richardson is back at Florida A&M as an assistant coach. I think FAMU will be definitely the team to beat. And Bama State, you can never count them out. They're always going to have the arms. It's just a matter of being able to hold teams in check. So Bama State, you can never count them out. The West is a little bit more wild than I thought, Carlos. You had a four-way tie for second going in, but Texas Southern's come back to earth a little bit, and I would say that there are 4 or 5 teams right there nipping on Texas Southern's heels. They get hot, they can overtake Texas Southern. So I think pay attention to the West because there's definitely a log jam there, and we'll see if the Braves can get these next 2 and be at least in the conversation at the end of the weekend.
Well, you can also look at Alcorn State as the season progresses, maybe being, if they're not improved as much, but they could be improved as much to be a spoiler. I think they're going to get better, Charles. If I can say it this way, when you're at the bottom, there's no way else to go but up. And they had a brutal start. But look, they took a game from Prairie View, so remember what I said, trying to improve and get better each time out.
Well, I'll say this as well. Talking with Reggie Williams the last few days, not only is he trying to build a program on the field, but he's also shaking the right hands and kissing the right babies off the field in terms of trying to get alumni support, getting community support. He's reached out to me, and I've given him a few names, and he's doing some stuff, very quietly. He doesn't talk a lot about what he does. He just goes out and does it. And so I think he's doing all the right things to make it happen. He only had 15 players when he walked in the door in August. 15. The maximum roster is 35. So he barely had half of a roster when he walked in the door. And I'll give you an example just how shorthanded we are. Last night we had a situation where we had a pitcher that was taken out of the game. He was the third pitcher. We don't have many arms. So what happened was he took the pitcher out. He brought the first baseman in to pitch, okay? So he needed a first baseman. He moved our second baseman to first base. Then he brought in the second baseman from the dugout. That's just how shorthanded we are. He's playing chess. He's moving these pieces around because he doesn't have a lot of pieces. He's not making any excuses about it. He looks you in the face and say, hey, this is what we got. We're going to make it work. And so I do think that hard work, that grit, and that determination is going to pay off. And I do think the Braves are going to be a spoiler in this thing before it's all said and done. I hope they make the tournament because if they do, they would have earned it. And, they could make a little noise in the postseason. But they got to get there first. And, we got to cut down on some of the mistakes, too, on the field.
Charles, I have a strange feeling that 2 years from now, we're going to see a big improvement with Alcorn baseball. That's just kind of the feeling I'm getting. Maybe 3 years from now. Yeah. I think you'll look back at this year and you'll be like, wow, what a difference.
Well, Mike Robb, I talked with him a couple weeks ago, and he, of course, he studies every team he plays, and he studied our team, and we talked before the game, and he said, you know what, y'all got a pretty good coach, and I can relate to what he's dealing with. When he was at Prairie View, he said his very first year at Prairie View was the same thing that Alcorn's dealing with: limited roster, not a lot of bodies, and he went through the same brutal scores and the brutal play that we're going through. But he says, you know what, if you keep working hard, you will get over the hump. So I mean, I give Mike Robb a lot of credit for at least sharing that story and relating to that, because it can be tough. Baseball's a small window. Season ends in May. You got the summer to recruit, get ready for fall ball and all that. It's not a great window for baseball. You got the summer, you got May, June, July to make it happen. So at least Mike Robb was honest in admitting that, and we'll see. Reggie Williams, got contacts at the next level, so he knows how to make it work to put a baseball team together. Just the question is, can he do that? And I think he is on his way, despite the results that we're seeing on the field.
Going to recap what kind of some of the topics that we talked about on today's show. Of course, we talked Southern baseball, winning 2 out of 3 from Grambling State, winning game 1 against Texas Southern 5-3. Softball, the doubleheader, they split with Alcorn State. The finale is today. Cedric Thomas, new defensive coordinator at Alcorn State, previously defensive back coach, 2012 to 2015, previously defensive coordinator, 2016 to 17 at Alcorn State, at DB coach at Southern Miss, and of course a 2-year stint at UAPB. Dillard's Kiki Barber named the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference commissioner. First black woman appointed to this position, so we do see his history in the making, a historical thing. Charles, Alabama A&M baseball softball facility severely damaged from the spring severe storms this past week. Grambling State spring game today. Charles, of course, I will have, should I call them spies? Or can I use another word that will be there and give me a report on Grambling State? And I'll just say this, Charles, it has really, you think of Grambling State and Southern as far as a rivalry. It's a rivalry, but it's not really as heated or has as much energy as the Southern Jackson State. Yeah. And I'm just speaking for myself. Southern Jackson State, you could be playing tiddlywinks. It could be marbles. It could be Simon Says. I don't want to lose to Jackson State in nothing, nada. But now Grambling State with, a new football coach, and, he's strutting his stuff. I guess he should. His chest is out. And on social media, they're talking about we've kind of gotten the best of Southern in sports, from the Bayou Classic to basketball, losing 3 doggone times in men's basketball, women and women's basketball. They feel that they have the up. I said all this to say this. The rivalry now has a little more energy to it. I'll leave it at that. And I can't wait to the Bayou Classic.
I never thought the rivalry lost any oxygen. I thought it was just as intense and as passionate. I never got this sense, of course, as Gramblinite myself, I never got the sense the rivalry lost a thing. I thought the rivalry is what it is, it's a very heated rivalry, and that's not a friendly rivalry, very heated, passionate, and for some people, hated rivalry. I never thought the rivalry lost a step, to be honest with you.
Well, I understand your opinion, and I respect that. But Grambling, it's like, if you're Southern, it's like your cousin, it's family. Jackson State, it's like the tough dude at the end of the block, and you're at the other end, and you got to pass that way, I got to pass that way, and it's on, it's popping. And I guess if you ever attend a football game, you will see it is energy. It's an F5. Southern Grammar is more like an F3 now.
Oh, yeah.
But that's just
yeah.
my opinion. I'll put the poll out there. Who's the most intense rivalry for Southern? Is it Jackson State or Grambling? And we'll see. Jackson State's locker rooms, the new ones, pretty doggone good. Now, you've got people saying, podcasters saying, everybody is trying to do what Jackson State is doing. Let me give you a tip, Charles. There was history before in the conference. And it'll be history after coaches are gone. But social media, it is important now. You have to utilize it to help build your brand. So I think that kind of covered everything that we talked about. Closing comments, Charles.
Yeah, I mean, I think, for all the hype and hoopla with Coach Sanders coming in, he's talked the talk and now he's walking the walk. They got the new sand pit over there in the practice facility. It's going to be interesting to see how they utilize that. I see why, but I think a lot of people were shocked to see that. The new turf on the practice field, you got the new meeting rooms. So not only is it being talked about, it's being done. You're seeing that. So whether or not teams will be able to utilize or match that, I don't know. I'm not going to judge that. If they have the resources, they'll try. If not, they won't. And so that's just how I look at that. We'll see how it evolves as we get throughout. But I'm looking forward to seeing now with these spring games coming up. Now you're going to talk a lot more about football and who's hot, who's not, who's going to be the quarterback, because there are a number of teams that are trying to find that starting quarterback, including right here at Alcorn State University, including right there in Baton Rouge. So I think this week we'll kind of see how things evolve with these spring camps.
And let me say this in closing. I applaud the athletic facilities. 15, 16 years ago, I talked about improving facilities. I remember Southern University weight room in a trailer. Coach Richardson talking about facilities. And he didn't really see what he talked about per se. Now you have a field house complex at A.W. Mumford Stadium. You've seen it. The field is named after Coach Richardson. But I'm going to take it a slightly different perspective. Those are great things. You can win without facilities. Coach Richardson proved that. But in this day, it is important to update your facilities whenever you can. Athletic facilities. But here's now where I'm going. Southern University has a master plan, not only on the athletic side, but the academic side. So, I see some complaints from students at HBCUs about housing and dorms. Let's not forget about that. Have a master plan, and I understand it takes money to do this. But this one is about building relationship. So when we're having athletic facilities updated, let's not forget the universe as a whole needs to update their facilities. And I think you got to have now the total package. You don't want to see any more students complaining about accommodations. Or you see comments about, well, if it was the football team having this problem, it would be fixed ASAP. Don't forget about the total university as far as academics. I want to thank all of our guests, Charles Edmond, Jim Kleinpeter, Coach Vann Pettaway, Brian Full for producing, and everyone who watched in. Make sure you tune in next Saturday at 11 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Until next time, as always, peace and God bless.